Brad Daugherty was always destined to be a star, especially since he was starting at North Carolina at just 16 years old. He was a smooth 7-footer with a lot of offensive game. His footwork in the post was extremely advanced, as if he got the ball anywhere near the hoop, it was pretty much 2 points every time. He was mobile enough to operate in the pick and roll, plus he could hit the mid-range consistently. While not being an elite shot blocker, it still wasn't smart to challenge him at the rim. He was a beast on the glass and an underrated passer out of the post. After a legendary career with the Tar Heels, Brad was the first pick of the infamous 1986 draft by the Cavs. They also added Mark Price, Ron Harper, and Hot Rod Williams, basically rebuilding their entire team in one offseason. Brad and Mark developed a nice pick and roll duo as Cleveland suddenly became a powerhouse in the East. They got as far as the conference finals in 1992, but they could never get past that guy in Chicago. Brad was one of the best centers in the league for his entire career, making 5 All-Star games and an All-NBA team, but back problems would hamper him, causing him to retire after only 8 seasons. But Brad's been busy post-NBA, working as an analyst and also owning a NASCAR team. He was one of the more underrated players of his time, as his short career led to people forgetting how nice he really was when he was healthy. Welcome to PZ Hoops, and let's get down to it. Brad was born October 19, 1965 in Black Mountain, North Carolina. He grew up in a family that valued education, as Brad was an excellent student, even skipping the 8th grade just like his 2 older brothers. Once he got to Charles D. Owen High School, he quickly showed his ability, turning into a coveted high school prospect by his senior year. The McDonald's All-American chose to stay home, attending North Carolina as a 16-year-old freshman, majoring in communications. He joined the Tar Heel squad that featured the star duo of Michael Jordan and Sam Perkins. Brad earned the starting center spot and he played his role, taking the least amount of shots amongst the starters. But the Tar Heels got off to a rough start, losing their first 2 games to St. John's and Missouri, and needing 3 overtimes to beat Tulane. After going 3-3, they went on an 18-game winning streak. UNC finished the season 25-6. And although they lost to NC State in the ACC tournament, they were given an at-large bid to the Big Dance. Brad had a solid freshman season, averaging 8 points, 5 rebounds, and a block. He fouled out of the first tournament game against James Madison, finishing with 5 points and 3 rebounds, but the Tar Heels won easily. He dropped 8 points and 6 rebounds in another win over Ohio State. He dropped 15 points and 9 rebounds against Georgia, but the Bulldogs shot 56%, winning by 5. The Tar Heels returned their top guys in 1983, while also adding freshmen Kenny Smith, Joe Wolf, and Dave Popson. They started the preseason ranked number 1, making a statement by winning 21 games in a row before losing to Arkansas by a point. After ending the regular season at 26-1, they lost to Duke in the ACC tourney. Michael and Sam were both first-team All-Americans, while Brad had an improved sophomore year, averaging 11 points, 5.5 rebounds, and a block. In the tournament, he dropped 10 points, 7 rebounds, and 2 assists in a win over Temple. The Tar Heels defense totally collapsed against Indiana, allowing them to shoot 65%, but North Carolina only lost by 4 points. Brad only shot 3 times, dropping 3 points and 4 rebounds. Jordan and Perkins both left for the NBA, so Brad finally got a chance to prove himself as a junior. North Carolina started out the season 7-0, but ACC play was a different story, as Georgia Tech really gave them problems, beating them in both regular season matchups. They lost to the Yellow Jackets again in the ACC tournament, but they secured an at-large bid to the NCAA tournament. Brad's much improved junior year saw him average 17 points, 10 rebounds, 2 assists, and 1.5 blocks, as he made the first team All-ACC. He really showed out in the first game against Middle Tennessee, dropping 25 points, 11 rebounds, and 2 blocks on 73% shooting in an easy win. They barely snuck past Notre Dame, but Brad put up 18 points, 12 rebounds, and 2 assists on 6 of 8 shooting. Auburn was another test, but Kenny Smith's 22 points helped a lot, while Brad dropped 10 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 blocks. Brad put up 17 points and 12 rebounds on 7 of 9 shooting against Villanova, but he was the only Tar Heel to score in double figures, as they lost by 12. Brad really became one of the best players in the country as a senior, as the Tar Heels started the season 21-0 before losing to Virginia. After finishing the regular season at 26-4, they lost to Len Bias and Maryland in the NCAA tournament, but they were still a 3 seed heading into the NCAA tournament. Brad was the second team All-American this year, averaging 20 points, 9 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, and a block. Brad went crazy in the first round game against Utah, dropping 27 points and 5 rebounds on 12 of 14 shooting. He put up 13 points, 13 rebounds, and 3 assists in an easy win over Alabama Birmingham. 19 points, 15 rebounds, and 6 assists wasn't enough as the Tar Heels fell to Purvis Ellison in Louisville. Coming into the 1986 draft, Brad was considered the best center prospect, but Len Bias was an enticing choice to go number 1 as well. Cleveland had the top pick, but this easily could have been the Sixers pick, but they traded to Cleveland for Roy Hinson. Brad was chosen first overall, but the Cavs weren't done, as they selected Ron Harper with the 8th pick and traded for Mark Price, the 25th pick. They also got Hot Rod Williams back this year, after he missed his entire rookie season due to a trial involving point shaving. The Cavs had essentially built their entire team in one offseason, and the future looked bright, as Lenny Wilkens was hired as the head coach, and Wayne Embry was given the GM job. In the second NBA game, Brad dropped 18 points and 15 rebounds. He recorded his first career triple-double on December 19th against Utah, with 19 points, 10 rebounds, and 11 assists. He dropped a season-high 33 points, 12 rebounds, and 8 assists on February 18th against Sacramento. Brad showed a lot of promise as a rookie, recording 28 double-doubles, 3 games with double-digit assists, and 7 games with at least 3 blocks. Ron had an amazing rookie season, but the Cavs were a young team, and they were expected to lose their fair share of games. But 31-51 was a step in the right direction. In his all-rookie first-team campaign, Brad averaged 16 points, 8 rebounds, and 4 assists. The Cavs added Craig Elo and selected California's Kevin Johnson in the 1987 draft. Mark Price was finally named a starter after John Begley was traded. Brad started his sophomore season on fire, dropping 17 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, and 4 blocks in the season opener. He was putting up all-star numbers in the first 2 months, as the Cavs are a respectable 12-15. Brad put up another triple-double on February 3rd against Washington with 20 points, 10 rebounds, and 11 assists. He was named an all-star this season, as he also showed his underrated court vision, leading all centers in assists. In the wake of the Phoenix Suns drug scandal, Larry Nance was available, but the Suns wanted one of the Cavs' young point guards in return, so they decided to trade Kevin instead of Mark, and now the Cavs had a nice defensive presence in the middle. Ron's production dipped after he dealt with some injuries this year, but the Cavs had developed a defensive identity now. Their 42-40 finish was enough for the playoffs, as Brad averaged 19 points, 8.5 rebounds, and 4 assists. The first round matchup against the Bulls would be the first installment of a one-sided rivalry that dominated the late 80s and early 90s. Brad had a so-so playoff debut with 12 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 blocks, but he shot 4 for 10 in a double-digit loss. He bounced back with 21 points, 13 rebounds, 4 assists, and 3 blocks, but the Bulls won again. He had 13, 10, and 5 in Game 3, but Mark really stepped up with 31 points, making 11 of his 14 shots to help the Cavs stave off elimination. Ron was the hero of Game 4, dropping 30 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, and 3 steals to help Cleveland tie the series and force a do-or-die Game 5. But Cleveland couldn't get it done on the road, as Brad dropped 16, 10, and 5 in the loss. The Cavs really put it together in 1988, as a pick-and-roll duo of Brad and Mark was one of the best in the league, and everyone was finally healthy. Brad continued to be the man in the middle, dropping 31-15 on 9-11 shooting on November 19th against Milwaukee. He put up 16 points, 17 rebounds, and 7 assists on December 2nd, and followed that up with 20 points, 15 rebounds, 9 assists, and 2 blocks the next game. Mark had grown into one of the best point guards in the league, as he made the All-NBA third team with 50-40-90 splits. Larry was 5th in blocks, and Ron was 8th in steals, so the Cavs were solid on both sides of the ball, as their 57-25 record was their best in franchise history up to that point. Brad kept improving, averaging 19 points, 9 rebounds, and 4 assists. The Cavs got a chance at redemption, facing the Bulls again in the first round. However, this would be nearly impossible without Mark, as he injured his ankle late in the season. Brad had a quiet Game 1, with 9 points, 7 rebounds, and 2 assists, as the Cavs were down 20 heading into the fourth. Even after a valiant comeback attempt, the Cavs fell short at home. Mark returned in Game 2, but Brad had another off night, with 6 points and 5 rebounds, as he only took 6 shots. Ron put his cape on, dropping 31 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists, and 5 steals to help Cleveland tie the series. Brad finally picked it up in Game 3 with 17 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 blocks, but Michael dropped 44 to help Chicago take the 2-1 series lead. He put up 15 points and 17 rebounds in Game 4 as he shot 2 for 10 from the field while making 11 of his 12 free throws, helping Cleveland get a close overtime win to force Game 5. The Cavs were in pretty good shape to win Game 5 as they were up by 1 late. The Bulls had possession, but everyone in the building knew who was going to take the last shot.
The inbounds pass comes into Jordan. Here's Michael at the foul line. A shot on Elo. Good! The Bulls win! They win it! Set the Cleveland Cavaliers. Michael Jordan hits it at the foul line. 101-100.
It seemed like that shot sucked the life out of the franchise. As things went downhill from here, multiple rumors about Ron began to swirl, as he was allegedly hanging around known drug traffickers and even lent his car to one of them. Even though the rumors about him were proven to be false, Ron's reputation was already in the mud and the owner wanted him gone. so the Cavs traded him to the Clippers for Danny Ferry and Reggie Williams, but neither of them would come close to Ron's production, and this went down as one of the worst trades in NBA history, especially since the Cavs gave Danny a 10-year, $34 million contract. It also didn't help that Brad had a foot injury that required surgery, so he wouldn't make his season debut until January 30th. It took a few games for him to get back to his usual self, but he finally caught on, especially in March, as he averaged career-high numbers, while the Cavs went 9-3 to finish 42-40. In his shortened season, Brad averaged 17 points, 9 rebounds, and 3 assists. For once, the Cavs didn't have to face Chicago in the first round, but facing Philly would be just as tough. Brad averaged 20 and 10 in the first 2 games, but they couldn't stop Barkley, going back to Cleveland down 0-2. Craig Elo showed up big time in Game 3 with 25 points, 10 rebounds, 9 assists, and 4 steals, as the Cavs shot 57% as a team to blow Philly out and get on the board. Brad had one of the best playoff games of his career in Game 4, with 34 points and 9 rebounds on 12 of 15 shooting. He had 25, 9, and 4 in Game 5, but Hersey Hawkins couldn't miss, torching Cleveland with 39 points, including 4 threes. The Cavs were bounced in the first round again. The new decade went behind the Cleveland, as Mark tore his ACL 16 games into the season. Hot Rod missed a large chunk of games with injuries as well, as Brad was forced to carry the team. He dropped 35 points in the second game of the season, and even had a stretch from late November to mid-December where he averaged 25 points and 11 rebounds on 56% shooting. He had a career-high 53 double-doubles, also dishing at least 5 assists in 20 games. Darnell Valentine was serviceable as a starting point guard, but he wasn't Mark Price. Cleveland's offense suffered tremendously, finishing 33-49, missing the playoffs. In his career season, Brad averaged 22 points, 11 rebounds, and 3.5 assists. Cleveland would bounce back in 1991 as they added Mike Sanders while also drafting Terrell Brandon and Bobby Fields. Mark came back healthy, and Brad would have another elite season, averaging 24 and 10 on 60% shooting in the first month. He dropped another triple-double against the Pacers with 32 points, 11 rebounds, and 11 assists on 14 of 17 shooting. He had 43 double-doubles while having the 4th best field goal percentage in the league, not just being named an All-Star, but a 3rd-team All-NBA member. The Cavs had the top 10 offense and defense as they finished 57-25. Brad averaged 22 points, 10.5 rebounds, 3.5 assists, a steal, and a block. The playoff seeding finally worked in their favor as they matched up with New Jersey in the first round, and Brad would play out of his mind this entire postseason. In Game 1, he dropped 40 points, 16 rebounds, 9 assists, and 2 blocks. He dropped 29 and 8 in Game 2. Over the next 2 games, he came back down to earth. The Cleveland took care of business in Game 4, winning their first playoff series since 1975. The Cavs faced the Celtics in the second round, as their usual big three was old and breaking down, especially Larry Bird. Brad dropped at least 20 points and 8 rebounds in 5 out of the first 6 games. In Game 7, he was unstoppable with 28 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, and 3 blocks to send Cleveland to the conference finals. But it was only a matter of time before they had to face the Bulls. Brad played great to start, averaging 25 and 8 on 63% shooting in the first 2 games, which both teams split. But after this, his production dropped by a lot, as he only shot 36% over the last 4 games, as Cleveland lost the series in 6. The Cavs were still an elite team, and they felt that they didn't need to add that much, but they did trade for the Jordan stopper, Gerald Wilkins. Brad dropped 25 and 12 in the second game of the season, followed by another triple-double on November 12th against Seattle with 11 points, 12 rebounds, 11 assists, 2 steals, and 4 blocks. He had 43 double-doubles, and this was also his best passing season, racking up at least 5 assists in 30 games, as he was an all-star for the last time. The Cavs were running like a well-oiled machine on offense, ranking first in field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, free throw percentage, and assists. They also allowed the 4th fewest points, finishing with 54 wins. Brad averaged 20 points, 10 rebounds, and 4.5 assists. The Cavs faced New Jersey again in the first round, and this was a back-and-forth series, until Brad went crazy in Game 5 with 24 points, 20 rebounds, 8 assists, and 2 blocks. They moved on to the second round, facing you-know-who. Brad was putting up his usual numbers, but the Cavs were down 0-3 heading into Game 4. He was already up to 25 points, 13 rebounds, and 3 blocks, but Michael Jordan had the ball late again.
Cartwright got it in for Scottie Pippen. Pippen brings it up against Craig Elo. Scottie, right side for BJ, 11 seconds, 10, 9, BJ just holds, bothered by Price, dump to Michael, 6, 5, 4, Michael strip, got it back, 3, 2, Michael falls, fires,
Yeah! He does it again!
The ball's wet, he looks at the crowd, at the buzzer, this crowd is stunned.
This jump shot would essentially mark the end of this era of Cavs basketball. Cleveland was set to run it back in 1993, as they made a few improvements to their bench. Brad was playing pretty well, putting up his usual numbers, although his scoring dropped a little bit. He did end the calendar year on a hot streak, averaging 24 points, 10 rebounds, and 4 assists on 63% shooting in the last week of December. The Cavs were 26 and 23 heading into a matchup with the Bullets, but Brad went down after 11 minutes with a herniated disc in his back. He would miss the rest of the season, but the Cavs were still able to make the playoffs, and they got swept by the Bulls again. Brad averaged 17 points, 10 rebounds, and 3 assists. Brad's back still wasn't 100% healthy after multiple surgeries and thousands of hours of therapy, so he chose to retire in 1996, prematurely ending what could have been a Hall of Fame career. But Brad has been busy after his basketball career, as he used his degree to secure commentating jobs for the Cavs and for ESPN. He's also explored another one of his passions, owning a NASCAR team, as his team even won the Daytona 500 in 2023. Brad Daugherty is one of the best players to ever play for North Carolina. Once he got to the league, he really showed his elite offensive skill set, as his playstyle meshed well with Mark Price. The two formed a great pick and roll duo that helped Cleveland become one of the better teams in the league in the late 80s and early 90s. They were so close to competing for a championship, but they couldn't get past Michael and the Bulls. It's also unfortunate that Brad got injured in his prime, as it would have been interesting to see what the rest of the 90s would look like for him. He still deserves credit for helping Cleveland achieve their highest heights as a franchise up to that point, as he still remains near the top of the franchise leaderboards. Man, thank you guys. Really appreciate y'all for watching. Like, I've always seen Brad Daugherty, but it's like nobody talks about him. Like, when you talk about those 80s Cavs teams, it's always Mark Price, or Ron Harper, or maybe even Larry Nance. I feel like he was definitely the engine that made them go. He was one of the most important players on that team. When I watched him play, he reminds me of a Tim Duncan. Obviously not as good defensively as Tim Duncan. The offensive game, the post game, definitely on par with Tim. To be honest, that Ron Harper trade did them in. Because if they would have kept Ron, maybe they would have had a better chance to beat Jordan. Even though he's not stopping Jordan, he's better than Craig Elo on defense. Like you know what I mean? Like, he's better than Craig Elo on defense. You not only trade Ron Harper, you trade him for nothing. You trade him for literally nothing. We get 10 years of Danny Ferry. Oh my goodness. I would have wanted to see what Cleveland would have still done in the 90s. For those of you who actually watch Brad play, if the Cavs somehow, by the grace of God, beat the Chicago Bulls, do you think they would have really had a chance against the Showtime Lakers or the bad boy Pistons? You know, if they faced the Pistons in the Eastern Conference Finals instead of the Bulls, or would they have beat the Lakers or the Blazers, or what other team was nice in the West back then? I don't know, Seattle, Phoenix, like teams like this, would they have beat these types of teams in the finals? Also, do you think that Brad is a Hall of Famer? Take away what he could have done. I'm talking about what he did right now. I mean, 5 straight All-Star appearances in an All-NBA team, and then dragging your franchise from the depths to the Eastern Conference Finals. It's a pretty commendable achievement, if I'm being honest. And then you average 20 and 10 for 4 years straight before you get hurt. I don't know. Maybe he's in that hall of very good. They might get a nod, but just it might be 10 to 15, maybe 20 years after their career's over, 20, 30 years, maybe even more. I don't know. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate you guys. Thanks for all the support, man. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Hit that subscribe button if you're new to my channel. Thank you. Please be safe. I'm out. Peace.